Okay, it's already 8 p.m. I think people are already arrived here. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Garik. I am a software developer. It's about 20 years in this area. And today's demo, today's meeting, I scheduled just to talk about the works I have done here and also the idea that create web applications and RESTful web APIs. How can we achieve that by using uh, Visual Studio and less code and even no code. Uh, so let me share my screen. Okay. At first, let's go over the agenda, what we are trying to achieve today. For the first part, we will create web application and at the same time RESTful API with Visual Studio uh, and use the framework that will allow us to do multiple creating entities, create some data entry application, and also use create, delete, update, and read operations over URL, which is RESTful Web API. And after that, we will go over some internals, how the code is working, and a little bit about architecture, and then end user perspective. So how it looks like, users can enter from the UI. So what's the UI looks like, and what are the extensibility points that the framework provides. So how that can be customized uh, to create other extensibility things and improvements. And also we'll do Q&A at the end of the demo. And that's it. Let's go. So this is Visual Studio. If you're familiar, you're a developer, you should be familiar with this. If you're an end user, so I wish you patience and until we create working web application. So now let's create a new project. In my agenda, that was two options. First, start from the UI, that is everything is ready as cloud application, and you create your entities and use web API from there. But then I decided it's interesting to create it from scratch. So completely empty application and empty project, and how can we build everything over there? Let's create ASP NET web application and first select that and then I didn't ask everyone screen my screen, right? You can type in the chat if you're not muted.
Yeah, I can see it fine.
Excellent. We can create an complete empty application, or select a template from API. We'll go ahead with the empty one. So no components, will be standard ASP.NET. And let's create the field that provided by ASP.NET. So this is the skeleton of the ASP.NET Core application. And we have nothing, just using routing and use endpoint. Now it's time to pull our, build it to make sure that the application builds. And it will, because Microsoft created a template project. And then we will pull the actual framework that provides us to do no-code things, writing API until it builds. And we will start to continue working quickly. Okay, let's add a NuGet package that's the framework. The package is available for .NET Core version. Let me show you a little bit more about the package. So the package is for .NET Core version 2.1, so started from 2.1 version. It's available on all versions. So because we created ASP NET Core project in the .NET Core version 3.1, it will use the latest version. So let's install that. And most of the packages are standard Microsoft packages. Thank you. Okay, now a couple of keystrokes in the actual configure services. So if anyone is familiar to the ASP NET Core development, there are two main methods in product file. One is configuring services, another one is configuring the actual pipeline. So this is configure services. So in configure services, we are going to use our frameworks code. So the first one is standard adding the controllers infrastructure. The second one is the framework. And we also need to take the configuration. So configuration order is, we'll take the configuration to and start a file. Someone requested annotation and wants to show something. Okay, let's continue. We're taking configuration and passing that configuration to the framework to do some setups for configuring the base objects of the framework. And in the configure method, we're adding using of the middleware for the framework. And we're going to map the main URL for the web application. And we can standard, the standard generated code, which is nothing else than hello world, showing hello world in the browser. Okay, what does this code? This code maps the root URL of our website to the web application which is generated by the framework. I think we're done. So let's build this solution. Okay, build succeeded. Now the framework uses the SQL Server database by default. So in the configuration, we need to specify our configuration string. That can be any existing database or an empty one. For this demo, we'll create an empty, complete empty database and use that database. So just make sure that everything works from scratch. So what it does, it connects to my local database. And the database name, what I said is DAF_DB. DAF stands for Database Application Framework. This is a code name for the framework, but I didn't find any suitable name yet. So I'm open to any suggestions. DAF_DB. So let's say there is no DB, so creating a new database. DAF_DB. New database. Okay, database is created. Empty, no tables. Okay, let's run this ASP NET Core application. We'll see what possibilities we will have. Okay, Visual Studio generates the port for us. If you're familiar to ASP.NET application, it generates the local IIS server and spin up the web application. And ASP NET Core infrastructure start listening the port and then running the first request, which is the root URL. We specify that the root URL should be served by our framework. So if everything goes well, now we should see the main application page with some standard stuff in it, which is menu and some framework stuff in it. The first run may take a little bit longer. Okay, here you go. Everything went well, and we have sorry, we have our framework spin up the database, created all the objects for framework to function, and generated some simple menu structure with two modules. One module is development module, another one is administration for creating users, roles, and permissions to tasks. And there is a standard default menu for administrator. So before starting to create anything, I can say that everything in this framework is extensible, is customizable. So starting from database access layer until the UI templates that can be plugged in by the framework infrastructure. So today's demonstration is high level, so we will not deep into the how we can customize UI or customize certain components in the framework, but to show what it offers out of the box. Okay, let's start creating our first entity with a couple of fields, and we will then create the enter data in that table for that entity. Uh, we can create any entity, but for today's demo, I prepared. Let's say we're creating some CRM system. Suppose we're creating CRM system and we're creating entity customer. Uh, this part is mainly for developer, but in the future, I intend is to simplify the UI for leaving only the possibility for creating entities for users. For example, this UI allows us to specify whether this entity can, whether we allow this entity to be modified through API, through RESTful API. So for today's demo, we will check this flag. The safe updates allows us to enter information from UI. Why safe updates? Because usually entities have some business logic validations, so complex things that we need to validate before entering data into this table. So when the business logic is ready, then developer can check this safe updates checkbox and allow entry of information from UI. So because there is no complex logic with the entity I am creating now, we'll also check that safe updates flag. The data source name is by default is the main database, but you can create your other database and specify data source in the configuration. So this is a detail. These are columns. Let's say a couple of columns for our customer. The first one is, let's say, code, customer code. This is alphanumeric. Let's specify the length, month data length, that below 10 characters for the code. The next one is name. Customer name should be anything. Let's fix that. Create some datetime columns. So date established. So when the business is established. When the date business established is date time. Another one, let's create something with valid list values. For example, status. Status uh, can be valid list. As you noticed, I can enter information both from grid and from view. So both are synchronized. It's value list. Let's specify list values. Give value active. Another value for inactive. And one, let's say we want to sometimes the customer data needs to be persisted in the database, but actual record will be marked as deleted. So the third value is deleted. Okay, and then one checkbox column to see that everything works is domestic. So customer is domestic or yeah, this is yes no. Okay, let's save the entity, save the table. It will generate all needed stuff in the database, depending on which database, which database system we use. So currently we use SQL Server, so the data will be created there in SQL Server database. We have implemented SQLite and Access and MySQL. So any database system can be implemented and plugged in as a backend database. So now the actual table is there. So we don't have any menu to enter information from UI, but we allowed data to be available from a RESTful API. So RESTful API, as you know, is the ability to add, delete, update data through URLs. What stands for REST? REST is, I think, a representative state transfer, if I'm not mistaken. So it's available as API and entity name. In this case, our entity is simple. There are no child objects, no related objects, but in the future, we will add the related objects and we'll see how can we work with the relational data. So for now, we'll use customer and let's get the customer information. Because we don't have standard we don't have the overridden class for the let's just ignore this, because when it doesn't find the implementation, the exact implementation of .NET object, it generates the standard implementation. So standard implementation works. It returned JSON data, and the data is empty. So the main data comes in the data field of the JSON. So if the operation is successful, the flag success returns true. If there are any errors, the errors array returns the error information in the array. So no errors, but no data. This key is used when we create some item. It returns the key that we know what's the created key of the item. And also, let's add some new customer, and we'll see how it works. Because we cannot add this through the browser post. So creating data is done through post request. To use this request, we will use Postman. So in Postman, we will create the post request and copy the URL. And what we need to do is just specify that our content that we're intended to post is application JSON format. As you noticed, as for now, we don't have any authentication in place, but it can be implemented in both ways. The first one is using the ASP NET Core infrastructure, so authentication and authorization standard, ASP NET Core, any authentication and authorization mechanism. But if we don't have, the framework also provides implementation, some default implementation, which is username password. But for now, we just create entities without any authentication. Okay, the endpoint is API customer, the content type application JSON, and we need to pass the data through body in row view. So here I have template for creating the information. So actually it's a JSON with one field, which is row, and it comes in this format. So column name value, column name value. So field key value pair, and let's say we want to add as code. The value is customer one. Let's say this is our code of our customer, new customer. The name in the name field, we will specify, for example, X, Y, Z company. Okay, let's say date. The field values are case insensitive, so okay. Date established is let's say 2020 established today. 21. Okay, we can leave other fields because no fields we specified as required, so our API should accept them. Otherwise, if we require that information in our entity creation process, API would API will fail with the error message that this will be required. We can try that. Now let's create our first entity. Invalid column name date established. So what we name as a column in our tables, date established. Date established. Maybe I wrote date established. Let's just copy and paste, maybe some typo here. Okay, so the customer is created. The first one with the key was invalid. And in the location header, we got the URI for the created customer. Now let's try to get that customer data through browser. Okay, we have data. So our first customer came as customer key 2. The key is invisible for users and it's just surrogate key for it's incrementing key in the database. And user visible code, user visible is the code. We'll see that in the UI soon. Okay, now we have a customer created and it's available. Let's create another customer. So we have a couple of records in the database. Cust ABC. This is ABC company. Establish, let's say, another. This is also created. Now let's query all customers that we have in the database. So those are 2 as for now. To easily see the JSON format, you can use some online tool for this, just to see the JSON in convenient format. So we have two customers, 1, 2, and all the data is there. But for now, the status is no, because we didn't specify any default values for those. So we can change the our entity model to provide some default values for this. Let's do that. So as a status, let's specify the default value. What is default value? Default value is 1. Let's save data. And after changing the information, the section should be refreshed. And then let's try to add another record. Why we're adding a couple of records? Because now we'll filter those records, and API supports filtering, sorting, paging, and also API supports selecting certain columns. So we'll go over that a little bit in detail. Customer temp, temporary customer. Let's say this is the status data established. And also, let's not specify the status, and also specify is domestic, which is Boolean variable. It's true. Okay, we have also created another one, and in our API, it's a list. Okay, created. So yeah, I will click send. Now I'll get the customers and copy this. Hmm. The third customer doesn't want to be created. Oh, the value cannot be null. So because we are in the development mode, the exception detail is displayed in the output. So actually, what's going on with this one? Parameter name context. We have this value as true is domestic. Oh yeah, the syntax is wrong. So I forgot to specify the comma. So the system cannot recognize the actual JSON that we're sending because of this comma. So now I hope this will work. Yeah, it worked. And now we have the third customer verifying clear format. Okay, 1, 2, 3. So three customers. The third one is the status is one. Though I didn't send the status, the default value worked. This domestic true, so we have all the information for the customer. Now updates. So to update the customer record, we need to use put request. Put request for put request because the update need to go for the specific customer. We need to pass the customer key. So which one we want to update? Let's update the first one and set the status to active. So the first one's customer key is 2, and we can send only the field that we want to update for this customer with key number 2. But anyways, we can send other fields. So either case, it will work. So for simplicity, let's just send the value that we want to update. So we want to update status to be active. So the code of the active is 1, and just remove those other fields. But once again, you can pass all the information, and the system will change only the status, only the field which is changed. So it will compare the existing values and change the status, update only the change value. So the request is put, the customer URL is ready, and JSON data is ready. Let's send this information. The successful response is 200. Okay, so update is done. Let's verify by querying the customer number 2. We'll see if it's updated or not. The status is set to 1. So update worked. Now we have customer status updated. So now about the columns. So I told that API allows to select certain columns. Let's say you have some UI application that doesn't need all the information of the entity, but certain fields. So let's specify columns and get only the code and name. Now the API returned only those 2 columns. Let's see it in the clear view. Now data came and only 2 columns here. Cast 1, cast ABC, and cast 10. We can order this information by passing the next parameter, which is order by. Order by equals, and this is also comma delimited names of the columns. In this case, let's sort it by code. So actually, it's sorted by code. Cast 1, cast ABC, because 1 comes first before A, and cast 10. So sort worked. To be sure it works descending order, let's specify descending. It's case sensitive. Descending. So descending order worked. It's cast temp at first, then cast ABC, then cast 1. As I told before, it also supports filtering. So filtering, simple filtering can be done through URL, but more complex filtering can be done by post request. So let's just simply filter it with URL. Filter equals, let's say, code is equal to cast ABC. This is case sensitive search. Wow. The filter worked, and now we got only the cast ABC. What else? Yeah, filtering. So let's remove the filter, paging, sorry. Filtering worked, and now paging. So let's say we have thousands of millions of data, and we want to restrict our output JSON results and get some paging information. So how the paging is working? It's providing one argument, which is take. Which is take equals, let's say I want to take, because our result set is small, we have 3 customers as for now, we will take 2 records at once. Take 2. So only the first 2 records appear. And what if we want to skip the first 2 records? For that we use skip. So we'll skip 2 records. And I think if total number of records is 3 and we skip 2 records, the result should be 1. Nope. Take 2 and skip. Sorry. Take 2 and skip equals 2. 2. Yeah, that worked. I didn't click enter. So we're sorting by code by descending, and actually the cost one was the latest record. So we have 3 records, and we skipped over 2 records, and only the third record appeared here. So if we skip 0 records, it should bring us all 1, 2. Yeah, because we took through. Take is 2. Now let's remove take. Skip 0. Okay, we got 3 records. So the paging, as for now, we've seen the ordering, selecting the columns, paging, and filtering. So because it takes more time for filtering, so the idea is send some post requests to the customer's endpoint with some predefined JSON information. For quick, I will send the already constructed values. Okay, let's post to this API, and we need to specify the list, because posting to the root customer's endpoint, it will try to create a new record. But because we want to query data, we need to append slash list. So slash list, and we send a filter. So filter has some syntax that beyond of our today's presentation. If you want more detail, I can send some documentation. Please write me. And select column is column name. So what we want to filter, let's say filtering name, customer name. Sorry, column name is the actual column name should go here. We're filtering by name, and operation code 17 is contains. So contains, and value 1 is let's say XYZ. So I remember one of our customers has name containing XYZ. So give me that customer. Here you go. We get the data, and XYZ named customer returned. So in our database, there is one customer that contains XYZ in the name. Okay, this is for filtering and querying logic. So in the future, I am going to implement OData specification for RESTful API, and currently investigating the specification. That's a very great addition, that our framework will also work for any systems that use open data, OData as protocol. Now let's delete one of our customers. This is done by the delete request. Okay, let's delete customer number 3. Send. Action returned. Okay, and we'll see that customer number 3 with customer key number 3 no longer in our database. Let's see in this view. Customer 4 and customer 2. There is no number 3 because we have deleted. This is a brief description for the RESTful API. Now we can create some task for user interface. So let's create a task for entering entering new data, entering data in for customer. So before that, let's create a menu. Okay, for creating menu, let's add a new menu. Let's name it CRM. We can assign menu to any role or any user in the system, and that role or user will see only that menu. So for today's presentation, I created a menu, and we'll add some menu items on that menu. I will select the CRM menu as a parent, and I add a folder here, name it CRM. Folder name also will be CRM. There is no parent menu. It should go to the root. Okay, this one, let's create this one. And for another one, we need to have a task, because actually tasks are the unit of work that assigned to each user. So there should be a task, and we'll create a menu on that task. I'm going to create a task. The task name is customers. We will display it in the datasheet template. So there are multiple templates, but for this demo, we'll select datasheet. Datasheet template, and also we'll select the table customer. Okay, the task is ready. Now menu item. Menu item should be customer. No, if we select a task, it should populate that information. Okay, we selected a task named customer. It created customer. We are going to append this to the CRM menu. So parent menu ID is 1. Sequence number, let's say 1. And we'll add this to the CRM menu. Okay, let's save this information. As you notice, all this data is not causing any postbug. So this is completely single page application, and it has all the ability for filtering, everything that we have seen from the UI. All the functionality is available from UI. Okay, let's now select the menu CRM. Yeah, menu is ready with the folder CRM, which is going to be as a module in the future. And we have the first task, which is customer. Let's create that customer information. Let's refresh the page. Okay, now we have datasheet customer. Let's run again this task. All right. Now refresh data. Okay, we have asked for now 2 records for customers, and this template application allows customizing everything, nearly everything. So you can customize the detail view, you can customize the columns, how it's done. Let's say data established should go to the last column. We move to the last column. And let's say code is read-only for certain users. I made it read-only. Okay, so this is read-only for first 2 columns. Data established moves to the last column. This form view also is customizable. The same thing can be customized in the form view. Here in the form view, in the detail view, we also have ability to add our tabs and move certain columns to there. For this purpose, I quickly will create another table just for quick, and add another tab and display that information. let me create the other table briefly and a couple of minutes. So I am going to create address table from scratch. I will allow safe updates. We don't allow address to directly retrieve from the API. And then add address fields. Line 1, 1, line 2, city, state, and another field, zip, and it's that country. So we'll added text fields, all the text fields. Let's not add any validation over that field. That we can do it later. So the table is created. Now I want to change the customer record to reference the address of just we created. So I need to open the customer entity, and I will add a column address key, and which is numeric, and foreign key to the this child table. So the child table is address. Now let's name it the same name as the physical table. Unspecified one-to-one. So one customer should have one address for now, but in the future you can add multiple addresses and show this information in the child group. And also we need to specify the related columns. Key, address key. This is the column for our main entity, and related column, the same key of the child table. Well, let's save this information and close and reopen the customer. Now, let's try to add another tab here and name it address. Another tab, the sequence number, it will go to the end. Let's save this information. Save. Okay, address is there. Let's add address columns to this one. Here we go. Address columns, because we have specified one-to-one relationship, it's there. The column, line 1, line 2, city, state, zip, country. So all these columns should go to the tab, in this tab, address. And let's specify some grid of the XYZ company and save this record. Now our XYZ company has address. So simple, we added a couple of strokes and created the entity and linked to the base table, to the main table, and here you go. So we have 5 minutes. So I am planning to do a couple more demonstrations to show a little bit more information the framework provides out of the box. And also we'll do some developer sessions to deep into the architecture and some customization options. So everything we have done from the UI, all is possible from the code. So all the customizations, all the .NET classes can be created and plugged in into the application, into the framework, and it will adapt all new components here. Okay, now I am open for your questions, but I see not. we have some small number of attendees today. I hope that the count will be bigger and bigger. Because this is just a scratch. The meeting was also from scratch as I showed the demonstration for the framework. that we created the application from scratch. So if anyone has a question currently in the meeting, let's do some brief Q&A and let's go. Anyways, after this meeting, if someone has a question, you can send your questions to our meetup channel, and I will provide more details for more contacts. How can you contact me? Yeah, and let's wrap up for today. If you don't have any questions, not any? Okay. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. That was really a brief one. So I tried to cover the most features. We've created from scratch ASP NET Core web application, and also we have explored the RESTful API of the created entity. And that's it. As there are no questions. Thank you for joining for 2-hour presentation demo today, and keep safe.
Thank you, Garrett.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for joining. Bye-bye.